Hello, it's Andy from Email Love, and today we are going to talk about MJML and how we have applied this framework to the Email Love Figma plugin. Before we get into the plugin and show you how that works, I just want to quickly touch on what is MJML, how does it work, and I think it's probably best to do that if we share an example. So here is the MJML editor. So you can try this at mjml.io. And what you can see on the left-hand side of the screen here is a very simple example of how this framework is structured. So you have the MJML tag at the top, you have a MJ body tag, and then within the body, you have sections, columns, and housed inside the columns, you can have images, text, dividers, tables, and buttons, as well as a few other um, content types. And the way that this works is instead of writing out the HTML required for all of this content, you can simply use the syntax, and MJML will convert this into responsive and accessible email code. And so this is why we have applied this to our Figma plugin. It's an open source framework. It's well supported. It's widely used and known. And so that's why we selected MJML as the framework for our plugin. I think it's quite simple once you understand how these different tags work. So there is a little bit of a learning curve, but once you understand that the content all lives within the column is in the section, and the section is typically in at least in our plugin, it's in a wrapper. It becomes very easy to edit and to kind of move these different content types around. So let's move over into Figma and we can see how this actually plays out inside of our Figma plugin. So let me just replace my screen share and we'll pull up Figma and I will make it a larger screen so you can see properly. So here we go. So in Figma, we have the plugin over here. We have a frame for our email. And on the left-hand side, we have the layers and frames. And when you choose a section or a component from the plugin, you'll see on the left-hand side that generates all the layers and frames in the MJML framework for you. So let's start with a very basic example. This is just basically a table that contains a button. So super simple. So at the top level, we have the frame. So this is typically your template name. This is basically the overall container for the email. And then we have a wrapper. So MJ wrapper is basically a table. And then inside the wrapper, you have a section, which is a row, a table row. And then you have a column. And inside the column is where you have the button in this case. We can, of course, add text as well as images, tables, and dividers inside of the column as well. But that's pretty much it. The plugin will obviously apply the other like MJ header and all the other syntax that you need to add. But when you're using the plugin, what you need to know is each section has a wrapper, a section, and a column that contains the content. The column, you can have up to 4 columns. You can actually have more than that, but to comfortably fit your content, I would suggest no more than 4. And then you can also have as much content as you like within a column. Within the plugin, if you go to the build your own section and then select a column, you'll be able to add additional content types. And so if we wanted to add a MJ text or MJ divider into this section, we can do that just by selecting the column and then let's add a text block. And so you can see on the left-hand side that added MJ text frame with a piece of text. You can actually move this around. So now that you understand the MJML framework, you can move the content types around within the column, and you can also apply different styling to the text inside of the column. So if you want to kind of add padding, you do that over in the auto layout panel, sorry, and that will add padding around your MJ text frame in this example. Looking at a few other examples, one of the more complex ones is probably MJ table. So if we add a table, we can, let's say we want three rows and 2 columns. If we add that, you can see here to the column, it adds a table. Inside the table, you have the MJ row with its own columns. And what's nice about the table is you can actually move the column widths in different directions so that you can, let's just see here. I think I split this one by accident. So, oops. Oh, I added space, that's why. There we go. So let's just choose one of the columns. Yeah, so the table is powerful because you can add different column widths. And then, of course, you can fill each column with images, text, just like you can with the other columns. So that's how the table works. Again, you may want to adjust the padding on the right-hand side with auto layout. There we go. And so as long as you're operating within this MJML framework, you can very quickly create new content. You can move these things around. So you can move the table up here if you want. You just want to make sure that the table stays within the column. So sometimes where people go wrong is they will move the table and they'll move it completely like out of a wrapper, or they'll move a wrapper into another wrapper. And so this can break the design because the way the plugin works is we are trying to read a properly formatted MJML syntax kind of layout. And if you break that, then we don't know where to put that table because it's not contained within a column or a wrapper. So if we just preview this, we can just have a look at how it's going to look. So here it is on a desktop, and then natively MJML is responsive. And again, one of the benefits of using that framework. So you can see here, this is all HTML text. Even the table itself is actually responsive as well, which is super useful for our customers and for our use case. Let's see. And then if you want, if you actually select the overall template and then come back into the build your own section, there's obviously additional wrapper types that you can add. So you could add a 4-column section, and that will actually create an empty wrapper with empty columns that you can then fill with your content. There we go. So that is how the MJML framework operates within our Figma plugin, and why we have selected it. What our customers actually really like this framework. They like that we're using something that's well known, and it's easy to understand once you have done a little bit of research or a little bit of training on how this syntax structure should look. The other thing that I will point out is I don't know if it's unique to our plugin, but you can rename the wrapper types. So you don't necessarily have to call this MJ wrapper. You could, for example, give it a name like hero section 1, for example. So if you do want to change the naming convention of your wrappers, or even like the columns or the section, you can do that within our plugin as well. And we, as long as it's within this framework, we will still be able to read that and convert your design into responsive email code. Okay, so that's all I have today. Hopefully, you found that useful. Like I said, we continue to develop with MJML, and we actually work closely with the MJML community and the MJML team to ensure that it is the best email framework out there. So let me know if you have any questions on that. Happy to help. Hopefully, you found that useful. Thanks.